Hello there, it's Steve-O here from the Elite FPL podcast, and this is my final Wildcard draft podcast. And I thought I'd actually show you guys the wildcard that I actually mentioned last night on our live stream. So, if you didn't see the live stream, simply put, when me, Dan and Jason were speaking about wildcard strategies, there were certain single game week players that were coming up to mind. There was also a player that we were discussing that could be a major differential. That differential being Llorente here. Now, since coming off air and doing various pieces of research, based on regular community contributor FPL Booner, I think that this Llorente pick may be a bit too much of a differential in the sense of worried about starts, because as FPL Booner mentioned, so when Harry Kane was injured, which was back in game week 23, which was versus Fulham away, Llorente scored an own goal. But he then proceeded to play a further 3 matches after that. So he played 4 matches in a row, starting, apart from Newcastle at home, ironically. But he played minutes, basically, in game weeks 23 to 26. And his returns was 1 own goal, but a double-digit haul versus Watford at home, an assist and another assist, all 3 games at home against quote-unquote lowly opposition. Now, FPL Booner made this point, though, that at the time, Lucas Moura was actually injured. So, now the fact that Lucas Moura is available, that's put a few doubts into my mind about this Llorente pick. So, I may just get rid of him and keep that spot open, but I've only got 5.1 in the bank. Now then, the biggest thing I've done here is to bring in triple Southampton defence, because as I mentioned in the podcast, their assets are so cheap, and their fixture tomorrow versus Wolves really is a rehearsal for me to picking their assets regarding double game week 35. The issues is that the fact that they're playing Newcastle away, which I can see being quite a tight game as ever, and down here Watford away, which I can see that being an open game. But as mentioned last night in the live stream, Southampton's recent form versus, well, not just bottom to mid-table teams, but also the top 6 teams, hasn't been too bad of late. So if we look here, let's just take the last 5 as an example. So they won 2-0 at home versus Fulham. Away at United, top 6 team, they only just lost out on 3-2. Tottenham at home, a close 2-1 victory. Away at Brighton, they won 1-0. And at home to Liverpool, as we know, they kept them at bay for 80-odd minutes until, of course, you know who came up with the goods. But the point withstanding, though, is that versus these poorer teams, 2 clean sheets there. You know, okay, at home to Cardiff, 2-1. But of recent form, I keep alliterating this point. You know, the last 5 fixtures, they've kept 2 clean sheets at home and away versus 2 bottom 6 teams in Fulham and Brighton away, which does encourage me. Angus Gunn, his points as of late have been pretty solid, to be fair, since gaining a first team spot. So versus Fulham, he got 7 points. Against United, 8 points. Not to be laughed at. 6 points versus Brighton, standard clean sheet, and even a save point versus Tottenham. So for me personally, even looking ahead, a lot of people are going on about Watford goalkeeper Foster, which is totally understandable. But looking ahead for Southampton's next fixtures, I am reasonably confident of... I mean, it's all about clean sheets, isn't it? I get that, but I'm reasonably confident that they could get some form of clean sheet. So Southampton, Bournemouth, probably going to be goals galore there. That's game week 36. Game week 37, they are away at West Ham. Well, West Ham are just... Well, we all know they're pretty poor at the moment. And then the final game of the season, I mean, that could be all up in the air, but they're at home to Huddersfield. So I'm relatively confident of getting something from these three particular Southampton players. Plus, I ain't going to be playing them every single week. You know, so I've already come up with the most basic strategy. So my main heavy hitting defender would be Laporte. And then basically my defensive rotation would be around either playing Valerie, Duffy or Bennett. Whichever one of those combinations is worth playing. And to be fair, it's not too bad. And what this allows me to do, as explained last night, is have this heavy hitting front eight. Now, Jason made a very valid point that, well, hold on a minute, you're only playing bench boost in game week 35. Yeah, that's true. But it's still 5, 6, 7 definite heavy hitters playing. My only one concern is getting rid of Lacazette and Jimenez. So if we just bring them back for a second. So that's my front three officially now. I don't really like this Lacazette pick, to be honest with you. I'd rather have Aguero as my striker, as I keep banging on about. His form versus the top 6 teams is really good. We can all look into what we want regarding the Champions League game. And yes, and say, well, hold on a minute, Steve-O, he missed a penalty. Very, very true. But this combination of Llorente possibly starting at home to Huddersfield really, really does... It gives me some form of hope, because it really is a minefield at the moment regarding what players to pick. I must admit that. I mean, I had a question from Simon Bellamy, which was, do you think it's worth investing in such a heavy strike force? Because he believes they're not that great. Well, I completely disagree with that. I think that there are a lot of... This is the problem with this particular... If you're doing a wild card, this particular game week, that there are just too many options to choose from. I mean, the midfielder selection alone is really, really difficult. I mean, I could... Now, I don't want to do this, because Sterling, I believe, will play every single game. But I could get rid of Sterling, get rid of Llorente, and have Aguero instead. And maybe, if I can afford it, I haven't actually specifically checked this yet. So let's just quickly check. I know it's quite a lot of money. Yes, I can. I could potentially go full differential and get in Kevin De Bruyne. And ironic, that leaves me with 0.3. But, again, the problem with that is that De Bruyne isn't guaranteed to start 3 or 4 games in the next 4 matches, but in theory he's got 5 matches in 4 game weeks, so to speak, because obviously he has the Champions League as well. His minutes, as of late, aren't too bad. 74 minutes away versus Fulham, 90 minutes at home at Cardiff. Doesn't really inspire me much. His minutes have been clearly managed all season, admittedly he's been injured. He's only got 2 goals and 1 assist, and I just don't think it's worth. This is my point about calculated differential punts, especially when we were speaking to Dan. So I just don't think that's a viable option. So getting rid of Sterling is just no. It's just a no-go for me. I mean, potentially Sane. He is the one which, if you knew for fact that he was guaranteed to start versus Crystal Palace away, and then he's got Spurs and United at home and away respectively, then I'd bring him in. The problem is, I mean, it's so frustrating when you see it from an FPL perspective, the points that he was bringing in. But he's just not guaranteed starts. He played 90 minutes versus Cardiff. He got a goal. Didn't play versus Fulham. Only played 26 minutes at home to Watford. Didn't play versus Bournemouth away. Again, all these blanks here. You know, and then there was a period between game weeks 21 up to 24, so 4 matches versus Liverpool, Wolves, Huddersfield and Newcastle, where he got some fantastic returns of 2 goals and 2 assists, getting 10, 8 and 12 points respectively. Again, this is why I think Sterling is by far the best option for this particular double game week. Or just City assets in general. Because I feel that he's almost a guaranteed starter. Same with Aguero. He's an almost certainty to be starting every single game. I was contemplating getting in Jesus for literally a 1 week punt. But it's just, again, it's just second guessing myself. I could potentially get rid of Laporte. I've got 4.5 in the bank. And potentially, this is really maverick. Potentially bring in this dunk of Brighton. That, of course, leaves me with triple Brighton, triple Southampton. But that midfield of Jota, Mane, Son Eriksson, Sterling, and a front three of Aguero, Jimenez and Firmino. Like I say, these two here, Firmino and Mane, these are my my single game week cover. I think that people are right in saying that Liverpool cannot be overlooked. This game week 35 fixture away at Cardiff is absolutely, I think, primed for goals, especially if we, Burnley, beat Cardiff at the weekend. Because if we beat Cardiff at the weekend, I think they've lost all hope to continue performing, and that's why I think in double game week 34 for Brighton, again, I iterate this point, if we beat Cardiff, Brighton should get a clean sheet. I mean, the odds are more in favour of that than Brighton getting a clean sheet versus Bournemouth. But this is football at the end of the day. We cannot call this. So, again, I keep saying this. It'd be really, really interesting to hear your feedback on this particular thought process, as I know we're all going through the same thought processes. I keep alliterating this point. The Elite FPL podcast is not a tipster site or a tipster YouTube channel. It is a channel following the emotional roller coaster, as Brett Mollison always says, regarding 3 blokes that take a mini league, a cash mini league, very, very seriously, and the decisions that they make. But of course, our decisions obviously help others. And I like to think that the 3 of us come up with logical reasonings as into why we choose specific players. But right now, looking at this, it's just like I state, it's just the double up of Brighton and double up of Southampton defenders. But Southampton at home to Wolves. You know what? I might, because when I do this recording, it's basically me doing this live. There's no editing involved whatsoever. And I might go for that. I'm just looking at this and I'm just thinking, I really, really like the look of that team. I really like the look of it. But it's the case of not having coverage from Manchester City regarding clean sheet defensive coverage. So let's just do a quick thing here by getting rid of Ericsson, getting rid of Dunk, bringing back in Laporte, bringing back in Laporte once he comes up here. Oh, I can just just do that. Fool. That leaves me with 7.7 in the bank, which isn't much money. But now thinking aloud here, I wonder if a certain player called, yes he is, so Lucas Moura. Lucas Moura. Let's just have a look at his season so far as an overview, and of course, so a lot of people may be questioning regarding, oh, what does Steve go on about regarding technology? Well, as you can see here, sometimes when I click on a player's name, it just completely goes to trash and I can't do anything. And the screen just very, very infuriating. And I apologise from this on a general overview thing. So I'm hoping that it all comes back up to play in a second, which it should do. So there we are. Right, it's come back up. So this season, respectively speaking, Lucas Moura's returns has been 7 goals, 2 assists. Now, from what I remember, he scored a hat-trick or a double versus United. He got a double versus United. But, you know, as FPL Booner says, and as what happened against City in the Champions League, Lucas Moura did come on. And it was Dele Alli, Lucas Moura, and Son and Ericsson up front. And you know what? Again, this is my point regarding differential choices. It could be seen in the sense of, right, what can I do regarding a differential player to potentially catch up on someone like Jason as an example, despite the fact that he's 98 points clear of me? Well, it's people like Lucas Moura that could be worth a punt, especially when, and I apologise for the screen completely crashing. I'm kind of glad that you can see this live, because this is really, really infuriating. I can't even come up with the crosshair thing. I wonder if I just quickly play around with that. But there we are, done. Let's go on a different menu, so that I can get rid of there. So there's Lucas Moura, a potential player to bring in for 6.7 million. Add player. As he comes on. And then I've got £1 million to play with in the bank. Which, again, this could be used to upgrade someone like Bednarik and Valerie, but I'm quite happy with them. Well, within reason, I'm quite happy. This is a minefield, as everybody can collaborate with me. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this possibly live. Oh, the Jimenez move, I just keep forgetting. Jimenez is just too good not to own. Minus 1.5. So if I was to get rid of Mane, how much does that leave me with? 8.6. Yeah, not exactly great, is it? Sorry about this. I know this is a recording, but I'm now, because like I said, I'm doing this live. You're hearing the tribulations of a man trying to discuss whether or not he should have Mane in his team or not. But yeah, so I look at this with Llorente in the team, and I'm thinking, actually, you know what, Steve-O? from what I'm looking at here, it's a massive punt, I know. If Llorente doesn't play on Saturday, which there's a high chance that he won't, you know, I've got a decent bench, so to speak. But I look at that team and I just love it. I really, really do like the balance of that. Triple Man City. It is triple Spurs, but looking at it, it's almost basically a double with Son and Eriksen. You've got coverage of single game week players in Mane and Firmino, which, you know, as I've just stated, Liverpool's fixtures are excellent. Jota and Bennett as Wolves coverage. In fact, I'll show you what I do regarding research for me. I always look at actual real raw data. I don't bother looking at underlying statistics or anything because it means absolutely nothing to me. But someone like Jota, Jimenez as an example, I want to see how well he plays against bottom 6 to mid 6 tables. So, and this is at home only. So at home versus Everton, he's got a goal. Burnley, he got a goal. Southampton at home, he got an assist. Watford at home, he got nothing. Huddersfield at home, he got nothing. Not looking good it's looking okay so far, but nothing desperate. And once this thing decides not to scroll down, of course it doesn't. Why wouldn't it? It's typical, isn't it? Absolutely. Keep saying this. When you actually want technology to work, it doesn't want to work. It's absolutely mad. I'd love to know if there's any PlayStation 4 experts out there that can explain to me why the internet, there we are at last, doesn't want to work. Bournemouth at home, he got a goal. Crystal Palace at home, they lost 2-0 and he did nothing. 4-3 at home to Leicester, only got an assist. Home to Newcastle, nothing. Home to Cardiff, 1 goal, 1 assist. So really, it's not looking that frightening going without Jimenez based on what he's done this season so far. But it's one of those where, but Steve, are you willing to risk playing basically in a double game week 35 bench boost where you're going to be wanting to be maximising as many double game week players as possible, which is basically this whole team apart from Firmino and Mane, so 13 players out of 15 will be double game week players, but Llorente won't be. This is really, really tough. I am struggling, so to speak, with this, but that team to me looks a lot better than what I'm about to bring up now, which is the actual team that I've got right now, which is that there. So a front three of Lacazette, Firmino and Jimenez. Eriksen, Sterling, Jota and Son as my midfield four. Valerie, Duffy and Laporte as my back three along with Ryan. And then my defence is my subs would be Alexander-Arnold, Bennett, Hudson-Odoi and Foster. You know what? I'm going to do a live transfer. I'm going to do a live transfer as this is my final Wildcard solo podcast. Let's go for it, shall we? So let's get rid of Foster, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Let's bring in those two Southampton players in Bednarak and Gunn. So Angus Gunn, the goalkeeper. Let's bring him in. That's him added. And let's bring in Bednarak of Southampton. That's him put in. 6.7 in the bank. So we want to get rid of Hudson-Odoi. Ooh, 10.9. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that. 10.9. That gives me opportunity to get Mane in. So I'm going to get Mane in. There we are. Click on his name there. Add player. Done. Right then. So those transfers there, I've just done, are Gunn in for Foster, Bednarak in for Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Mane in for... Now, obviously, I can't afford you-know-who, Sergio Aguero. Now, am I willing to have Lacazette away at Watford? Well, I'm going to hold that transfer off and wait for tonight's Europa League game versus Napoli. I think I'm going to hold off on that, so I'm just going to quickly make transfers, confirm that. I like that a lot, actually. Confirm transfers. There we are, done. So my team now, so obviously I'd be playing Mane. See, this is when it gets difficult. You know, who do I bench for Mane? Well, in this particular case, Jota. I will certainly. So for anybody listening to this on audio, I'll have double Brighton defence in Ryan and Duffy, Valerie and Laporte as my other two defenders, Ericsson and Son at home to Huddersfield, Sterling away at Crystal Palace, Mane at home to Chelsea, Lacazette away at Watford, Jimenez away at Southampton, and Firmino at home to Chelsea. Could all change, by the way. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it won't change. But right now, that is, as you've just seen live, as I've just done it live, or as people are going to be watching this on the recording, that is my team for Game Week 34 / double Game Week 35. And I will say that I get caught in this trap as well. A lot of people forget that actually we've got transfers after this particular game week. So players like Aguero, I could potentially bring in next week. You know, we will have a lot more information for double game week 5. For double game week 35, I personally think. Now, I will admit that I think Aguero is a perfect option for his double game week 35 fixtures because of his form this season versus top 6 teams. So that could play into Jason's hands, but as we stated on the live stream yesterday, Jason can do whatever he likes because he's so far ahead of me in the mini league and I'm so far ahead of third place that I can pretty much do what I want. Jason can pretty much do what he wants. And I think, as Jason admitted, he's going to be concentrating... Well, he didn't really admit this, but I think subconsciously he wants to get into that top 100. I mean, once you've experienced... I mean, let's just quickly bring up Jason's game week history this season. But once you've experienced getting to the higher echelons of... you know, near the top 100. He was certainly in the top 200, I know that for a fact. So if we bring up Jason's game week history here. Yeah, he was even in the top 100. So he was 88th in game week 30, as recent as game week 30. And then he went up a place in game week 31 up to 87th. Okay? So I think subconsciously Jason will be thinking, no, I want to get up there. Whatever he may say on these podcasts, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute he's lying. No way am I suggesting that. But what I am saying is that I think subconsciously he can say all he wants about getting in the top 10,000 will be a real achievement. Getting in the top 5,000 will be a really good achievement. I think for someone that's been so high up in the ranks as he has, me personally, I think he will have had a... Despite you've got to change your goals as you progress. Now, this could apply to anything in life, but you've got to change your goals to have a bit more enthusiasm. And for Jason to come out with a line like, you know, at the start of the season, I set this goal. I started off really, really well, and I still feel that ending up in the top 10,000 is a real achievement, which, yes, based on his overall seasonal history, you know, it is going to be absolutely phenomenal. But when you've been in this circumstance scenario where you've got up to 88th in the world, I think that you've got to set your goals a lot higher. And I think that for him, he did make this point that he wouldn't be disappointed if he didn't get into the top 500 or whatever it was. I disagree. I think he'd be absolutely gutted if he didn't. I think he would, me personally, if he ends up outside the top 400, based on his recent history, if he ends up outside the top 400, which, of his recent history, that's happened once in the last 8 game weeks. So since game week 25, he has been inside the top 400. It was in game week 28 where he dropped outside of that, and he was at 429th. But since then, he's had 4 green arrows. Okay? The highest he got to, as I just mentioned, was 87th as recent as game week 31. So yeah, the good thing about this particular wild card for myself and Jason is that we can play with a lot more freedom, I personally believe. And I think really, really, really fun to go over. So there we have it. You saw it live, my transfers for the latest wild card, and that was true live transfers there, as you saw. I just want to take this moment to thank everybody that will be watching this on the replay. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It helps us grow. More importantly, if you've enjoyed the content over the past 4 or 5 days that the 3 of us have created and you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We are very, very active on YouTube, to be honest with you. We do like producing content. This is an exclusive for anybody watching this at this point. We will obviously be advertising this tomorrow, but it looks like myself, Dan and Jason will be doing a live stream, live reaction to our wildcards and various other mini-league rival teams for this upcoming game week and moving forward into game week 35. So that's going to be fun. So just to make that point clear again, tomorrow evening, when the game updates, myself, Dan and Jason will be doing a live reactatory podcast looking over not just my team, but let's see what Jason has done, and more importantly, let's see what Dan's done. And let's see if he did go that within reason calculated differential route. I hope he does go for it. I really do. Other than that, I'm going to leave it there. If you want to find out when we do go live next, we always advertise on Instagram and Twitter. That's at EliteFPL. Once again, and we will see you tomorrow evening.